Deep in the classified shipyards of the United States military, engineers were handed an impossible task. They were told to build a warship that completely defied the traditional laws of naval architecture. The Pentagon didn't just want a new destroyer, they wanted a heavily armed, floating ghost. The result of this multi-billion-dollar obsession is the Zumwalt-class destroyer. If you look at a photograph of this vessel, your brain immediately struggles to understand what it is seeing. It looks like an alien spacecraft that crashed into the ocean, completely devoid of standard antennas, guns, or radar dishes. It is a massive 16,000-ton behemoth of steel and advanced radar-absorbing composite materials. But on an enemy radar screen, this monstrous warship has the exact signature of a small wooden fishing boat. It was designed to be the ultimate maritime assassin, a secret weapon that would redefine global power projection. But there is a massive, deeply embarrassing secret hidden beneath the sleek, futuristic exterior of this ship. It is a secret that naval commanders absolutely despise talking about in front of the press. The ultimate ghost ship arrived on the geopolitical chessboard exactly one war too late. To understand this catastrophic multi-billion-dollar miscalculation, we have to rewind to the late 90s. The Soviet Union had collapsed, and the United States Navy essentially owned the world's oceans. There was no massive rival fleet to fight, so the entire naval strategy drastically shifted towards the shoreline. The Pentagon envisioned a completely new era of warfare called littoral combat. They wanted a stealth ship that could secretly sail dangerously close to hostile coastlines in the Middle East. Once in position, it would unleash a devastating rain of precision-guided artillery shells onto terrorist camps and enemy bunkers. To achieve this specific mission, the Zumwalt was built around a terrifying piece of technology called the Advanced Gun System. These were two massive, highly automated cannons hidden completely inside the stealthy hull of the ship. They were designed to fire GPS-guided projectiles with pinpoint accuracy at targets up to 80 miles inland. The concept was absolutely brilliant on paper. A single Zumwalt destroyer could secretly park off the coast of a rogue nation and deliver the firepower of an entire Marine artillery battalion. It would provide unstoppable fire support for troops on the ground without ever revealing its true position. The Navy was so incredibly confident in this strategy that they planned to build a massive fleet of 32 Zumwalt destroyers. But while the engineers spent over a decade meticulously designing this futuristic vessel, the rest of the world did not stand still. The geopolitical tectonic plates violently shifted, and the rules of naval warfare were completely rewritten. By the time the first Zumwalt finally hit the water, the global war on terror was winding down. The era of hunting insurgents in the desert with multi-million-dollar weapons was coming to an end, and a terrifying, entirely new threat had rapidly emerged on the horizon in the Pacific. China had spent those exact same years building a massive, highly advanced blue water navy. They developed terrifying anti-ship ballistic missiles specifically designed to push the American fleet thousands of miles away from the coast. The concept of sneaking a massive destroyer close to an enemy shoreline was suddenly a guaranteed suicide mission. The US Navy woke up and realized they had built the ultimate knife for a massive high-tech gunfight. The Zumwalt was mathematically designed for a land attack war that simply did not exist anymore, but the strategic obsolescence of the ship was only the very beginning of the absolute nightmare. As the geopolitical reality set in, the Navy aggressively slashed the Zumwalt order from 32 ships down to just 3. This drastic reduction triggered a devastating economic chain reaction within the defense contracting world. Because the Navy was only buying 3 ships, the cost of the specialized ammunition for the advanced gun system completely skyrocketed. The manufacturer recalculated the production costs for the long-range land attack projectile, and the new price tag forced seasoned Pentagon generals to completely lose their breath. A single artillery shell for the Zumwalt's main guns was going to cost $800,000. Let that horrifying number sink in for a moment. Firing a single bullet from this ship cost almost as much as a Tomahawk cruise missile, but with a fraction of the range and explosive power, it was mathematically impossible to justify using the weapon under any realistic combat scenario. The Navy was forced to make one of the most humiliating decisions in modern military procurement history. They officially canceled the ammunition order entirely. They had spent $22 billion building 3 futuristic stealth destroyers, and their primary weapons were absolutely completely useless. The twin advanced gun systems, the entire reason the ship was uniquely shaped, essentially became massive, heavy paperweights. The pride of the American fleet was sailing the oceans with empty magazines. Adversaries around the globe watched this humiliating procurement disaster unfold and quietly celebrated. The ship that was supposed to strike absolute terror into the hearts of rogue dictators had become a floating cautionary tale. It proved that throwing billions of dollars at a problem doesn't work if you are aggressively solving the wrong problem. But the United States military does not simply throw away $22 billion assets. the admirals in the Pentagon sat down in a classified briefing room to figure out how to salvage the ghost ship. If the Zumwalt could not be the ultimate land attack artillery platform, it had to become something else entirely. It needed a new mission that fit the terrifying high-stakes reality of the modern Pacific theater. The answer they found was a technology so incredibly advanced it barely existed when the ship was originally designed: hypersonic missiles. Weapons that travel at over 5 times the speed of sound, making them virtually impossible for any modern radar system to intercept. The United States has been desperately trying to catch up in the global hypersonic arms race, but deploying these massive, highly volatile weapons on traditional ships is incredibly difficult. They require massive launch tubes, enormous amounts of electrical power, and deeply specialized cooling systems. And this is where the Zumwalt's greatest curse suddenly became its absolute greatest salvation. Because it was originally designed to power electromagnetic railguns and massive automated cannons, the ship generates an absurd amount of electricity. Its turbine engines produce enough raw power to light up a small to medium-sized city. The Navy realized that the Zumwalt is essentially a massive, stealthy, floating power plant. They are now aggressively pulling the ships back into dry dock to perform a brutal, highly classified surgery. They are literally cutting the useless advanced gun systems entirely out of the ship's hull. In their place, they are installing massive, deep-strike vertical launch tubes. These tubes are specifically designed to carry the military's brand new conventional prompt strike hypersonic missiles. The mission profile of the ghost ship has been completely violently inverted. It is no longer sneaking up to the coastline to fire artillery at insurgents. It is designed to slip silently into the Pacific Ocean, completely undetected by enemy carrier strike groups, and from thousands of miles away, it will launch an unstoppable hypersonic first strike against the most critical enemy targets. The secret weapon that arrived late to the last war is being heavily retrofitted to fire the first shot of the next one. This radical transformation is one of the most expensive and desperate gambles in naval history. If it works, the Zumwalt will truly become the apex predator it was originally promised to be, but the sheer level of classified engineering required to make this happen is staggering. Shipyard workers are operating around the clock, cutting through advanced composite stealth materials. They are rewriting millions of lines of proprietary software code to make the new weapons talk to the old sensors. The global intelligence community is watching these specific shipyards via satellite with extreme, undeniable interest. Adversaries know that a stealth ship armed with hypersonic missiles changes the entire mathematical equation of deterrence. You cannot defend against a weapon you cannot see coming, fired from a ship you cannot find on a radar. The story of the Zumwalt is a brutal, highly expensive lesson in the arrogance of geopolitical forecasting. You can spend 20 years building the perfect weapon, only to realize the enemy completely changed the game. Agility and adaptability are far more valuable than pure, highly specialized technological superiority. The US Navy learned this lesson the hard way, at the cost of tens of billions of taxpayer dollars. But the ghost ship refuses to die quietly in the shadows of a scrapyard. It is being reborn with a terrifying new payload that could dictate the future of global maritime supremacy. The next time the USS Zumwalt sails into hostile waters, its guns will be completely gone, but the invisible threat lurking inside its hull will be faster and deadlier than anything the world has ever seen. The secret weapon is finally ready for a war that everyone hopes will never actually happen.